Okay, so Native American authentic text usually bears a sacred tie to animals, especially horses. So if you ever see a book where a Native American girl is like kicking a dog or like doing something that you would think, not that they would kick a dog, but like wouldn't honor the dog coming in from the rain or those kinds of things, that's like a no-no. You don't put that in there because to them, like the animals are very, very sacred. Like I said, especially horses. The girl who loved wild horses actually wanted to become a horse, so she ran away with the stampede, and in the end, she did become the horse. But they also hear messages through the earth, okay? Because they honor the ground so much, the soil to them, even when they pick the sand up, it's just very important to them. So they feel like if they silence themselves enough, that God will pass messages to them through the earth. So anything that's earthly, trees, or just to sit out with the stars, that is very core to their culture. Family loyalty, like I said about Pocahontas. If the father wants her to marry someone, she's marrying it. And odds are it's not a Caucasian man with blonde hair and blue eyes, like it was in Pocahontas. Okay? Storytelling is foundational. That's how they pass. I think a lot of cultures combine storytelling. But for them, it comes with like the healing and the potions. They feel like through storytelling, that's a way for them to definitely pass on. Like some cultures feel like if you have a boy, you're passing on the tradition. For them, it doesn't really matter as much. It's more of the storytelling. Like you need to follow this because your ancestors did that. Okay. Okay, and the last one that I've highlighted for you is Asian American texts. Okay. Now, the first three, you can click twice. The first, this for me, these three books are key also. This is K to 3, and this is, I think this is 3rd and up, okay? If you notice, they all have the same author, Yang Suk Choi. She is like a pioneer. She's actually in her late 30s, mid 40s. She's amazing. She writes, she's like the one. You know, if you really want to get a good book that's Asian American inspired, Yang Suk Choi is her name, and she has the name right here. This is my favorite book for lots of reasons.
I love that book.
When she uses this, what caught my eye about this book is the green color. I just feel like, and it's appealing to young students also, the illustrations. And I think it was up for the Caldecott Award, and it lost to someone. I'm not sure why, because I really like it. But just the green color, something about it, she uses that a lot throughout her books. It's like a soothing, calming color, and I really like that. So these are her 3 books, and I really recommend them for you to use. Okay, so Asian American authentic text often, again, is written by an Asian. Okay, number 2, there's a fear of breaking away from family. That's a no-no also. In their culture, in where they live, if you do that, you can be really, really penalized for doing something like that, for breaking away from your family. A lot of times they cut hair. They will just disown you. It's like a big no-no for them. Okay, discipline is a huge foundational point for a multicultural book. They do not believe in every man for themselves. What do you think? This is the way it is. This is the way you were brought up. We're following these rules. Okay? Strong work ethic. You will definitely see throughout an Asian American book how the dad worked, the granddad worked, the great-granddad worked, and it's continuing down the line. A lot of times it's passed down, whatever it is, like the family business. And again, obedience. Obedience is huge. You will never see, like, there's a show called Caillou. Caillou is disobedient. That would never be in an Asian American book, someone saying no dad. And if there is, they would show culturally that discipline that came with that. Okay, so you should be looking for those kind of things. The next slide I would recommend for you to do is, the next point is to look for books that have these kinds of awards. Okay? The Coretta Scott King Award is for African American books. the Caldecott, which I'm sure many of us are already aware of, like this. These are more for all-around books, but they do honor culturally conscious books. And the Belpre Award, it's BELPRE, that's the Spanish Latino Book Award. Okay, you'll see that a lot. There's a website called A-MIGHTYGirl.com, which I love. Part of my focus on this class was multiculturalism and young women's roles in that culture. And I found this website, and it's AMightyGirl.com. And it's all books devoted to girls. Every kind of girl, like, and I'm not talking about like girl power so much, but like this book was on there, like Grace for President. Like, why couldn't Grace be president? She thought that to herself. Everybody else was running for school president. Why? And somebody said, well, you have that kinky hair. And she wasn't buying it. Like, Grace was just confident, and her mom told her, that she was strong enough and she was smart enough. And so Grace talks about all the different kinds of presidents, and she sees herself on Mount Rushmore. And so it's about confidence for girls and thinking those things. So this was another really cute book, but I found it on that website also. Okay, so now we're going to do an activity. Okay, this activity, we're going to just move this over because we're taping ourselves and it's easier. So this is this is what's called a make and take, okay? You're going to have each student write their name on a piece of paper, okay, and the jar is behind you. Okay, so everybody take a jar. So you're going to have everybody take a jar, or you're going to have this jar for your classroom, I'm sorry. You're going to have everybody write their name on a piece of paper. And you're going to put the names into the name jar, just like Yang Suk Choi did in the name jar for her, Yoon Hee. And you're going to have students draw a name out, but keep it a secret, okay? So Lorraine's name's in there, Jen, Gina, Angelina. So somebody picks it out, and it's Angelina, okay? The students will need to write a paragraph about that person whose name they picked and draw a picture without including the name. One at a time, have the students present their paragraph and picture and have the students guess who it is. Now, I like to do this in my guided reading groups because there's always somebody that's done quicker than somebody else. So for me, what I would do is, you're going to decorate this jar. All the names are going to be in here already. And they pick out who it is, and they go to the designated spot. And when they're done, like the clothesline in the back, they just hang it up, and they move to the next spot. Okay, so it's not, look, Mrs. Pina, look what I have, look at it, guess who it is. There's a specific time and place for you to do that, okay? And I feel like that works. You can modify that for as little kindergarten to 8th grade, however you would want to do that. But it's just fun to have them. You're going to decorate yours today just so you can take that with you. But it's fun for them to do like a cross-curricular activity like through art or something like that. So I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to do that for yourselves. And if anybody have any questions about anything now? You can ask questions. Why don't we do that? If you want to ask questions while you're making it, you can. I'm going to read you, if not while you're doing it, I'm going to read you this book.
I do have a question.
Sure.
In the multicultural books, we do a lot with historical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Do they look at them in the same light? Because with those, they're able to connect to a character in them.
Sure.
And view different struggles and things. Is that as authentic and as purposeful?
Yes. In the older grades, it starts to get a little bit more intense, like for Jewish culture, perhaps.
Some of those books, it's hard for me in 4th grade to use them. Very true,
Right.
because I don't know what they do or don't know already.
Right.
I don't know. I feel as a teacher, that's harder. That should be more of a mom at first. You know what
Sure,
I'm saying?
I know
some
what
of
you mean.
those things.
And I would say then caution on the side of don't use it. But just for example, like the Jewish American books are mainly about the Holocaust.
And they're pretty, they're great, some
Right.
of them, but they're pretty intense.
But I would start, in my personal opinion, I would work through that like in a week almost. Like discuss vocabulary that you might see in vocabulary. Let's draw a picture about a time when, and relate it to the Holocaust almost. Like when you were, I I don't know, solve something that was taken from, talk about the issues in it, and then bring the book later in the week. That's what I do, because it's hard to not. I mean, this kind of book is not going to capture a 7th grader's attention,
right?
As much as the chapter books and those types of things. So, in my opinion, I think that you could even go as far as to writing a note home saying, "This is what we're going to be discussing on Friday." If you feel like you wouldn't want that, or you know what I mean, just to kind of get a feel for the parents, because that is a little hairy to kind of go in, because it does go in depth.
Yes. So historical fiction as a genre, though, is not frowned upon
No.
as far as cultural awareness.
No.
Okay.
No.
Because it is fictional to some degree, but it really gives them a person
Yes.
to connect to.
Fictional will discuss different topics than nonfiction. Nonfiction will go into the depths of things, but fiction, I think, kind of lightens it up almost for them, so it's a way that they can interpret it for themselves, almost. Like where fiction is like, in 1942, this is what happened. You can't interpret that in your mind. That's just an authentic fact. But for fiction, I feel like that's a good way to introduce topics that are a little harder to comprehend. So what you said is, I
going
think,
through the character's eyes. I mean, that's still
Right,
a very authentic way to expose them to it.
Sure,
Okay.
and it's recommended actually for grades 5 and up that you have a story where it's told through the character's eyes, because it's immediately relatable to that person. So if it would be like I'm reading your diary. I'm like, wow, she's a mom. Wow, she's
Right.
So for them to see a 6th grader or a 10-year-old or a 12-year-old walking through something, they're immediately like, man, that could happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what you want, that personal connection almost. So yeah, I think historical fiction is a great way to do it. As long as you, now that you know some of these things, you can say, oh, well, historical fiction, but they're all making fun of, the headdresses that they wear. That's not really something that I would want. But maybe they would see that, if you're reading a Native American text, only for special occasions do they wear those headdresses.
Right.
So if the main character is having a problem, say she doesn't want to wear that, whatever, and now they're at the ceremony, and if it kind of circles that kind of a theme, I think that that's perfectly fine to do. But anything that goes against the culture, the real true culture, I would say not to have that in my library.
I wanted to tell you, have you ever heard the book Terrible Things?
No.
It's a story about it. It's like a pre-read for if you're introducing something like the Holocaust on
Yeah.
kindergarten. But it's where animals, these terrible things come, and they take different animals one at a time, and all the other animals are like, oh, well, good thing they're not for us. They're not for us. And it's, it's a really good book. Terrible Things. Heath Bunting.
I do have a list too. If we can talk about it later. When I took the multicultural class, they have recommended reading lists for certain ages that have to do with multicultural. And I can't think of the name actually right off the top, but we had to read a book, and it was, he got locked, maybe you'll know it, he got locked in, his parents, his dad got taken in the Holocaust, and he had to stay in the house, and he learned to play with the things that were surrounding him, not the house on,
I don't know it.
I would know it, it's the house on,
My kids are too young.
yeah. I'm sure Dr. Hacker is screaming at me right now what it is, but I can't think of it right now. But anyway, there's 3 or 4 that I could give you to introduce kind of the Holocaust. It's not killings, and it's not as intense. It kind of skates around the outside issues.